Has Brock Purdy done enough this season to answer the biggest question about him going forward? And can we get through an entire show before my TV gets delivered? We'll find out on the Gold Standard podcast. What is good, everybody? Welcome to the Gold Standard podcast on the Gold Standard and the Fans First Sports Networks. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. He's Levin Black. Levin, it's Thursday. We can exhale. The 49ers are off, and it's Halloween, the best holiday of the entire damn year.
It is, because it's the one with no religious connotations.
No family obligations if you don't want any. You get candy. There's no gifts to worry about, and you get to dress up. It's the best holiday, hands down.
And because it's Thursday this year, we got football immediately after trick-or-treating.
Unfortunately, it's Jets-Texans, but, we'll take what we can get.
What? You don't like seeing, a former great fall? Because that's what we're seeing is Rodgers in a train wreck.
It is. It's just like, why are the Jets constantly on my TV? Like, get it off. I can't take it anymore. And, just in general this week, there's not a ton from our perspective to watch as 49ers fans. Like, I'm rooting for the Lions to beat the Packers, and I'm rooting for the Seahawks to beat the Rams. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't think the Colts are going to beat the Vikings. Like, the way the schedule laid out last week was a much more interesting week in terms of things affecting the 49ers. This week, it's kind of just not.
It's funny that you say, why are the Jets on my TV? Get them off. Jets fans also think the same thing.
True.
2, you don't have any confidence in the Flacco magic?
No. Although that's true. I didn't think about that. They will be better. Diego and Snoopy are asking, where are our costumes? You know what? That's a bad job out of me. Here's the deal. Okay. I'm a little distracted today. I had to pick up my son right when the show started because he had a half day at school. And my new TVs could be delivered at any moment, basically, from now until the next 3 hours. So if that happens, I'm going to have to get up and leave during the show. Levin's going to have to take over because you got to sign for it. You got to inspect it and make sure it's not broken. So I didn't dress up for Halloween. That's a bad job out of me because I have my Jedi robes upstairs. My Obi-Wan Kenobi costume is ready to go, and I'm not wearing it.
I'm not dressed up because I'm also distracted. Let's see. Got up, immediately took my kid to preschool, came home, started mowing, got a text from you, went, oh, right, it's Thursday. I have a show to do today. Ran inside, took a shower, ran to my kid's Halloween parade at school, just got home, doing the show. I have somebody coming to pick up my old couch in a few hours. My parents get in town in 4 hours, and then there's trick-or-treating.
Well. Jason PDSI says Levin is a wet blanket for Halloween. That's not just Halloween, Jason. That's every day of the year. Antonio says the Cowboys dress up as a playoff team for Halloween every year. They're not fooling anyone. They won't be making the playoffs this year.
I just had a great thought. If your TV comes and you got to leave, you better come back in that flannel shirt because then you're in costume.
That's true. That is true. All right, let's dive right into it. I tried to be very careful with the YouTube title today because I want to talk about Brock Purdy, but I don't want to just have the sort of, is Brock Purdy worth $60 million a year conversation. The conversation that I really want to have is, okay, first of all, John Shoup leaves this comment that says, Rob in a robe would just look like an empty robe walking down the street.
He'd be like a ghost Jedi.
You know what? That sounds pretty cool. Anyway, with Brock Purdy, there's 2 questions you have to ask. One, have the 49ers already decided no matter what happens, come hell or high water, they're paying him? And if the answer is yes, then the conversation is obviously over. But if they haven't decided that yet to this point, 1, has Brock Purdy done anything through 8 games that answers it for you one way or another? And 2, if not, what do you need to see these last 9 games of the season to figure it out, basically? And how much does what he does next factor into what the Niners are going to do?
I would say So far, he has shown enough that I'm giving him a new contract. I'm not getting rid of him. And you're not going to be able to make him play out his final year. He will demand a trade or new contract. Like there's no way he's playing for 900 grand next year. So that's not on the table. To me, he's good. He's shown enough that I'm paying him. As of right now, I'm not giving him a blank check. I will give you, the 60 million, but I want an out after 2 years. That's where I'm at. I will pay you, but I want an out in 2 years just in case. I'm not at the stage of I'm paying you and it's going to be, a Burrow level contract, or can't say Dak because he does these short-term ones, but you know what I mean? Like you're not giving him 60, 65 million a year and you're stuck 5 years no matter what.
If you're the 49ers, let's say you're John Lynch right now and you're like, man, I really like a lot of what I've seen, but I don't know if I'm quite there yet. Do you think they could go to Brock Purdy and say, look, Brock, we don't have to do anything with your contract. You're under contract for 2025. But we think it's crazy that you would have to play for $1 million. But we're not totally on board yet. How about we rip up your deal and we sign you to a 1-year, $45 million contract? So you get a much deserved raise for 2025. And yet we don't have to shell out the mega bucks before we're totally comfortable with that. Is that something you think is possible? Or do you think Brock's people would just say, screw that, we'll just hold out and we'll eventually get what we want?
His people would probably say that, but I also don't think it's good for the Niners to do that. If you do a 1-year deal, even if it's 45 million, you got no wiggle room in how to space that out. So,
Well, you could make most of it a bonus, right? And the actual salary could be less.
but if it's a 1-year deal, all that bonus is going to count this year anyways.
But the signing bonus doesn't count against the salary cap.
Yes, it does. It's just spread out amongst all of the years of the contract.
I thought the signing bonus doesn't count against the cap.
No, otherwise they would never, ever, ever give any kind of uh, money other than signing bonuses. The way it works, I think it's maximum 5 years, by the way. Might be 6. There is a maximum number of years you can spread out a signing bonus. But a signing bonus is when you sign it, let's say $40 million on a 4-year contract. So that's easy numbers. It will count 10 million per year. Thus, that first year salary cap hit for the team is 30 million less because there's 10 million the next year and 10 million the year after that and 10 million in the final 4th year of the deal. So you're able to spread out the cap hit by doing that. And so when you see a, let's say, 60 million per year deal for a quarterback, but it has $100 million signing bonus, they're able to spread out a chunk of that money over more years. And if they add void years, the void year value that you see on these void years that the Niners do all the time is leftover salary cap money. That's not just random money that they said, well, we'll put that money over in a void year. No, that salary cap hit spread out over more years so that you can keep passing the buck down the road. That's what void years do.
I'm only going to say this one time. You're 100% right.
I know I am. I literally read the NFL CBA.
I don't know why I had a brain cramp. I don't know why I thought that. I apologize.
I have read every word in the NFL CBA.
I think in my, I knew that it was spread out, but I think in my brain that was like, oh, so that means it doesn't really count against the cap. That was totally wrong. I apologize.
Yeah. I mean, if you say it in that way, it doesn't really count. You're sort of right, sort of not. It doesn't count now. Eventually, it does come due, but players that are going to stick around for many years, so like a George Kittle, for instance, you've been able to redo that deal multiple times because you keep pushing that bigger hit down the road is what you're doing. So
Right.
Eventually, when you do finally move on from a certain player that's been around and had these void years stacking up, eventually you're going to be paying 10, 20, 30 million dollars on a salary cap hit. It's not cash to the player. The player already got it years ago, but it's a salary cap hit and the player's not even on the team anymore.
When it comes to Brock on the field this year, if you had asked me a few weeks ago, I probably would have been like, damn, he is doing it on the field. He is proving it to me with the way he was playing, throwing the ball deeper down the field, throwing the ball in tight windows against man coverage, the way he's been scrambling. I was on board, man, but now things have kind of swung back in the other direction for me. And there's something that just doesn't quite sit right with me by saying, well, however he does in the next 9 games, I'll decide after that. Like, are we really basing this on a 9 game stretch? So I don't really know how to make this decision.
I think you just keep analyzing it in the moment. You don't say, well, in the future, we're going to definitely pay him because you don't know what happens between now and then. In this moment, I would pay him. If he craps the bed for 7 out of the next 9 games, I will be changing my opinion. That's just the way it is. I don't care what the quarterback is. I don't care if I'm Kansas City and you have Patrick Mahomes. If Patrick Mahomes went out and completely crapped the bed for 9 games straight and was up for a new contract, I would be hesitating. If there was some reason where you're looking and saying, yeah, this changed. Maybe, like I said after the instant reacts, I wonder if Purdy's arm is going through fatigue because of the surgery and ramping up, and now he's passing more, and so many of his throws are underthrown. Any quarterback's arm can just go at any moment.
Well, that's the other part of this, and that's only the information that the 49ers themselves know. What were the lingering effects of that surgery? Is his arm always 100%? Does he need rest? Does it get fatigued? I have no idea. There's all these little insights and things that teams have that happen after a major injury for any player, for any body part, knees, elbows, whatever the case may be. Like Ken Griffey Jr., my favorite baseball player of all time, broke his wrist famously, came back, was playing, and said randomly he would lose feeling in his hand. Just like it would just come and go ever since he had the surgery, like little things like that. He didn't miss any games. He played through it, whatever. But the point is, like, sometimes stuff like that comes up with your injuries, and that's something only the 49ers know.
I'll say this. I could see a shorter term deal with a compromise for both of them. I could see the Niners trying to say, you know what? We want to give you 3 years, 120 million. It's, essentially fully guaranteed. We don't have outs. We rip up that 1 year. So you might be saying, well, why would he accept 3 years, 40 million? It's essentially 2 years and 119 million being added on to the deal because he has 1 year, 1 million left. So he's getting 60 million for those 2 years, but he's getting money up front right now, which is important to him because he's not gotten the big money. 2, in order to get him signed to a shorter deal to where the team can then decide what to do, you could offer him, we will put in a no franchise tag clause so that at the end of these 3 years, you have the leverage in a negotiation. So if you're the real deal and we think you are, then you're going to get exactly what you're asking for because we can't franchise tag you. We don't have any leverage.
The only issue I see with that is if you do the big long-term deal, right, you could delay the cap hits to way down the line, thus allowing you to structure your other contracts in a way to take advantage of that. If you do the short-term deal, you don't have that luxury, and then his contract is up, and then you got to pay him again. So,
yeah. I mean, you wouldn't have as much flexibility, but that's why I went 3 years, not a 1-2 year deal. Because 3 years, you could have it to where that third year is a really big cap hit. And if he's the real deal, guess what? You're probably going to start negotiating that year anyway. So that third year kind of becomes a year that gets torn up anyways. But by pushing it to 3 years, well, we're talking about not this season, but next season and the season after would be the first 2 years of that deal. Who's still on this team that's expensive right now? Almost nobody. By that point, Kittle's going to be not getting paid top dollar if he's around at all. By that point, Juice is gone. By that point, Trent Williams is likely retired. By that point, Debo is gone. Like a lot of those really expensive contracts go away, and they can plan for, all right, this year and next year are somewhat controlled. He's expensive, but he's not crazy. That third year, these aging vets have to be gone.
You're going to have to pay Pooney.
Yeah, that's possible, but guards don't get paid a ton. So.
True. Lee Ving says it's what Kyle wants out of his quarterback. They didn't mind prepaying Jimmy. I do wonder, I think if you would give Kyle Shanahan truth serum, he would say that paying Jimmy Garoppolo was a mistake. I think he would say that.
In retrospect, yes. In the moment, it was 100% correct.
So do you think that that there are scars from that Kyle and John, more specifically Kyle, because ultimately it's Kyle's call. Like if John wanted to pay Brock and Kyle didn't, they're not paying Brock. So it's ultimately Kyle's call. Do you think he has learned anything from that, taken anything away from that? Do you think that is influencing this decision in any way?
I think the lesson he learned is I want an off season before I pay anybody.
Yeah, right. To see if they answer.
Because if they'd gotten to the freaking off season and Jimmy wasn't answering texts and did his ghost mode crap, he would have not gotten that deal. But he's seen Brock and he's seen that Brock is obsessed like you want out of a quarterback. So I don't think there's hesitation there. Other than I don't think they want to be, their hands are tied for 5 years. You know, I think they will want out. They will want an out built in. And if that means they pay an extra couple $1 million a year, they would rather have that deal be worth a couple extra million per year to have that out. That's what they want. Because I think if they had an out after 1 year with Jimmy, they would have used it.
Yeah. Well, but they had an out after 1 year with Jimmy because they could have got Brady.
Yeah, but they couldn't get out of the contract free and clear. They would have owed a decent bit of money to him.
Yeah, they would have owed money. I think they would have traded him. That would have been, what if they didn't trade him and then it was Jimmy and Brady all over again? That would have been
It would have been crazy because it probably would have been the team that comes calling would have likely been New England, because we know that they wanted that Bill Belichick wanted Jimmy. That's what I guess we don't know 100%, but that's what all of the reporting was at the time, was that Bill Belichick chose Jimmy and Brady won the fight with Kraft.
Waltony 101 on Twitch says, I kind of do worry Juice will still be on the team in 2040. Did you see he was taking a bit of a victory lap on Twitter?
I did. And yeah, you're still a fullback. So yes, you're still overpaid.
Yeah, this is, so for anyone that didn't see it, there's a Twitter handle called The Last of the Fullbacks. And it tweeted out some highlights from Juice. And he quote tweeted it and said overpaid. And the highlights are down there and they're all blocking highlights and they're all good blocks. And I get that. Like, cool. That's great. But my point about Juice has always been, if they had somebody else in there, they could make the same blocks. Like, why couldn't anybody else block those players the way Kyle Juszczyk did? I just feel like you could get someone else to come in and do that for a lot cheaper. I could be wrong. But that's always been my feeling. It's nothing personal against Kyle Juszczyk as a human being. It's just, I don't see this as so irreplaceable as much as everybody else does.
I think he's better than what they could find. There is a little more nuance to it. Basically, a fullback needs to have ball carrier vision and be a good blocker. They need to be able to go and know where the hole is, be thinking like a running back that this is likely this is where the hole is going to develop, and get in there and make sure it's clean and cleared out so that the running back can go. But to me, I have never understood why teams don't take a somewhat athletic but blocking tight end, a backup tight end but who's good at blocking, and say you're going to be our fullback when we decide to use a fullback, because you're athletic enough and you clearly know blocking. So we're going to have you block in a slightly different way, because, fullback, a tight end is supposed to stand there and basically try to hold their guy in their spot. A fullback's supposed to run and literally just dive into you and try to knock you out of the way. It's a little bit different, but you would think a blocking tight end could pick it up really quickly. That's why I would never pay a fullback. I would just have a third or fourth string tight end that in the 15, 20 plays a game that I want to use a fullback, they are the fullback. The drop-off would not be a significant enough factor. There would be a drop-off, but not significant enough to make it worth paying $2-3 million for a fullback.
I do think that Kyle Juszczyk has a unique combination of hands, blocking, running. Like, all of those things are hard to find. I would agree with you. Right. I think there would be some drop-off, but you can't tell me in 7 rounds of a draft class last year or 2 years ago, 7 rounds last year and 7 rounds after this season, you can't find a guy to do that stuff, at least on some level that's somewhat the same. There's nobody. I just find that way too hard to believe. But anyway, I didn't want this to turn into a dunk on Kyle Juszczyk thing. He's here. He's blocking. He's fine. It's just he seems to be hearing a lot of the criticism clearly, and he's responding to it clearly. So it's on his mind.
He's clearly taken the offseason pay cut personally, because that is. I took his post as he's responding to fans, but there is one person who said take a pay cut or you're off the team. So it could be a little bit of a shade being thrown that direction too. But he's definitely changed this year. We never saw this out of Juice before. He is suddenly like it reeks of somebody that knows they're towards the end and they're desperately saying, "No, I'm the same guy," when they're not. He's not as good as he was.
No, he's not. Well, he's older. I mean, we're all,
Right.
I'm not.
It's inevitable, but it certainly seems like he's hit that point where, yeah, it's very much a question mark. Is it worth paying you anymore? And he is desperately trying to dispel that.
Waltony 101 on Twitch asked the perfect question. If the Niners had let Juice walk, would anyone else pay for him? No. And you want to know how I know that? Because he's still on the 49ers. Because here's what happens. The team says to your agent or you, take a pay cut or we're cutting you. Your agent then goes out and talks to the other teams and finds out what the market is for that player. Hey, if he was out there on the free agent market, what would you be interested? Yes or no? What would you be willing to pay? Ballpark it for me. If you have any agent worth their salt, that's what they're going to do. And if the information that agent gets is less than what the team wants you to take on the new contract, then you take the reduced contract from the team, which is exactly what Juice did. I really don't think if another team was going to pay him more that he'd still be in San Francisco. I don't, because I think he was ticked that they were even asking in the first place. So I think you're right. I think he's taking it personally. I get why he's taking it personally. No one likes to have their salary reduced. But I do think that he kind of knows that it's sort of the end of the road and he's not happy about it. And I totally understand that.
Yeah, I don't blame him for the way he's acting or the post. I don't think he's crossed a line or gone too far or any of that. But I do think at this point he's fairly compensated for what he is. My personal opinion is I would not compensate that position, and that's a different matter.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he was worth what he was going to make.
Yeah, it's funny but you know what? If that motivates him, great. I'll take a super motivated guy. Like, not everybody in the locker room has to be totally thrilled with everything that's going on. Can you play good is the real question.
Yeah, exactly. And for a fullback, like I said in the instant reaction, they popped up and said that he was rated, what was it, 6th out of, I think, 11 fullbacks this year? Because only 11, there's a third of the league that has used a fullback enough to have a rating. It is a dying thing in the NFL, and it makes sense because the NFL's the way the NFL is moving is they are moving towards positionless football. They want wide receivers who can be running backs. They want running backs who can be wide receivers. If you have a dedicated fullback, you are limited in your versatility. The reason why Juice is good is because he's actually useful as a receiver. But does he have a limitation in his receiver? Is he a fullback for a reason? Yeah, because he's not quite fast enough, not quite powerful enough, not quite good enough of a runner to be a running back. So it's still not quite positionless.
If you're watching on the stream right now, you can see his PFF grades. They have him at 61.4 overall, first among 3 fullbacks. His receiving grade is 54.5, which is third among 3 fullbacks. And his rushing grade is 68.3, which is first among 3 fullbacks. But he's here. He's not going anywhere. I hope he continues to play well. I think it's interesting that he is not letting this go. We know he loves to talk to the media. Every time he gives Mike Silver a quote, Mike Silver mentions that Kyle Juszczyk took a pay cut in the offseason. It's a thing with him. He's not past it yet. And okay, Juice, you do you. Just please don't miss blocks and please catch balls when they throw it to you downfield.
Pretty much. I mean, we're not asking a lot of him. Put it that way.
Right. And also, don't let Kyle give you any more handoffs in the red zone, please. Or really for any reason.
No. I'm okay with that in certain circumstances. Don't let Kyle call a screen for you ever again, because a fullback screen should not be something that's in the dang playbook.
Sean Turner says, we gave Javon Hargrave $84 million and he's trash, but we're crying about $4 million for a fullback. Here's the thing, Sean.
Do you want me to talk about Hargrave? Because he is trash. That's what he's going for is Halloween. I know he's injured, but he was not putting up what he needed to put up before the injury. He's 100% going to be moved on from this offseason.
We can be mad about both. We don't have to pick one or the other. And I get that Juice makes a lot less than Javon Hargrave, and you can be more upset about Javon Hargrave. That's cool, but like I don't have to choose. It's not binary. We can be upset about both. And it's funny. I was just watching. I don't know why I do this. I was just watching the 2022 NFC Championship game. Javon Hargrave was a freaking menace in that game, man. I was like, right. Where is that guy?
Exactly. Like, I bite my tongue a little bit. I could be much meaner to him. I do think he got paid and got lazy. He is not anywhere close to what he was when he was with Philly. And it's not like, oh, he was getting unblocked and that's why he did stuff in Philly. It was scheme. No, he was winning his one-on-one matchups all the time. And he hasn't seen that. We haven't seen that since he got here.
His pass rush grade from PFF is 19th among 198 defensive tackles. So the 73.3 pass rush grade, that's pretty good, I guess. 60.6 overall. It's 82nd. Is he better than what they have at the line now? I don't know. I actually kind of like what I've seen from Sam Okuano when they put him in the middle of the defense.
Yeah.
And if you can get similar production for a hell of a lot cheaper, you're right. I don't think there is a chance in hell Javon Hargrave's on this team next year.
No. The injury, I think, sealed the deal. I think it was unlikely he was going to stick around anyways because they can get out of the deal and save some money this offseason. But the injury made it, okay, we don't even know if he's going to be what he was, and he was already not worth the money. So I forget exactly how much it is. I think as a post-June 1 cut, they can save like something like $19 million. And prior to June 1, you got it up here, they can save $3 million. So yeah, so I was pretty close. It's 20.7 as a post-June 1 cut, and it's 3.5 or so a pre-June 1 cut. He will be a post-June 1st cut.
Kyle did say on KMBR, it was either Kyle or John. They were both on KMBR early this week. They did say it's possible he returns in the playoffs. That torn triceps, though, that's when you tear muscle. I don't know. I don't even know if you would want him to return. I guess it also depends on the state of the defensive line at that point. And clearly, we're a long having to worry about that.
There's very, very, very little chance. I mean, think about it yourself right now. What does a defensive tackle do a lot? They got to jam like this. When you jam like this, trying to hit the offensive lineman, what muscle flexes the most in your arms? Your triceps.
Tell me more, Dr. Black.
I'm just saying, like, push against something. Go push against the wall. Tell me what muscle starts getting fatigued first. It's probably your forearms and your triceps. Your tricep, if he is able to get healthy, there is no way he's good enough to be playing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. By the way, since it's Halloween, I did hear Kyle Shanahan on KMBR talking about Halloween. And like, we always think of Kyle Shanahan as like grumpy Gus kind of guy. Listen to Kyle Shanahan talking about Halloween. This actually made me smile.
I was actually so pumped. It hit me that we have Halloween off, and I love like dressing up and going around with the kids and no one knowing who you are and just having a mask on and I love it. And so I was telling them how excited I was to go with them this year. And then my daughter who's a junior in high school looked at me. My son, who's a freshman in high school, looked at me and they're like, Dad, we're not going out on Halloween. What do you think? And I was like, oh, dang. And then I looked to my sixth grader and I was like, well, I still got to go with you, right? And she's like, Dad, that's kind of dorky for you to come with me. I'm going to be hanging out. You can like hang off in the distance. And I kind of got a face on me, and my older daughter actually felt bad for me. She's like, I'll go with you. I'm like, I don't need a pity party, guys. But I really would like to dress up and go trick-or-treating, but I guess we're going to have to think about having another one.
So first of all, props to Kyle Shanahan for liking Halloween. It's awesome. Second of all, do you think the mask he wears is a Kirk Cousins mask?
No, I was going to say Andy Reid, a Super Bowl winning coach.
It's something. Oh, Steve Spagnuolo, something truly terrifying.
Yeah.
I just think it's hilarious that Kyle was like, all right, kids, let's go. And they were like, yeah, none of us want to see you with near us.
I find it hilarious that his 6th grader said, "That's kind of dorky for you to go with me." I guarantee if he took the mask off, it would not be dorky because it would be like every kid in their, well, I was going to say dad, but it could be their mother too, is going to be going up and saying, "Oh, hi, Mr. Shanahan." And yeah, wouldn't be
I don't
dorky at
know.
all.
Like, I would love it. Like, if all of a sudden I'm in, ding dong, Kyle Shanahan comes to the door, trick or treat. Like, that would be great.
You could get Robert Saleh in Connecticut. I mean, he's got not much going on.
But I think if he were to, like, if he actually did that, more people would yell at him than would be like, "Hey, Kyle, how you doing? Thanks for everything." I think he would get crap at this point. You don't think so?
No, I mean, come on. You've been around. When you see people or players and coaches that are not well liked and they're walking around, do you see people treating them like crap? No, they're scared of them. They instantly change their tune because they know it's somebody famous and they want to be connected to somebody famous. When Brett Favre walks the street, do you think he gets heckled a ton? No, people either ignore him because they don't want to be associated with him, or they go up and say, "Oh my God, you're a Green Bay great." You know what I mean? Like, he's somebody like Brett Favre is still popular enough that he was just campaigning for a presidential candidate in Green Bay because he's famous. Like, people don't treat celebrities usually terribly in public, even if they're hated.
That's what Roger Goodell used to say, because he always gets booed at the draft and everything. But he would say, when I show up to events and stuff like that, people want to take pictures with me. They love me. So you could be right about that. I wonder. I don't know what the reaction would be. It wouldn't be 100% positive. I'll tell you that. He would get some gruff.
There would be backhanded compliments. You guys going to be in the Super Bowl this year? Like things.
Gonna lose the Super Bowl again?
Yeah. What about those fourth quarter issues? If you got a finger on those, there'd be questions that are like, they're not being mean, but they're purposely asking something that they want the answer to because it's something that's been frustrating them. And obviously that would be something that then is something Kyle has been failing at.
He certainly would get a different response now than he would if he would go later in the year, say December or January. And here's what I mean by that, Levin. I did some digging and I dove into Kyle Shanahan's record before and after the bye in his career. After the bye, Kyle Shanahan has won 70% of his games as an NFL head coach. And if you look at his two worst years, 2018 and 2020, both of those featured injuries to his starting quarterback. So if you just want to get really positive, you could say when his starting quarterback is healthy, they win like 80% of their games after the bye. Does this give you any more optimism for what we're going to see the last 9 games of the regular season?
More optimism than I already had? No, because I was already aware that he has a really high winning percentage late in the season, which is what I think has a lot more to do with this than just after the bye. You know what I mean? It's that it's after the bye is usually in the second half of the season. And that's when Kyle Shanahan shines the most. And that's when this team suddenly starts taking things seriously. So it doesn't give me any more optimism. I think the team will make the playoffs. I just don't think that they are mentally strong enough anymore to win a Super Bowl.
Okay. Well, since you're going to poo-poo that, let me play something else from Kyle Shanahan on KMBR earlier this week, since you mentioned the mental fortitude and all that stuff. Listen to this and then tell me what you think.
I feel like we did find a little bit of a different edge last week, and not in terms of playing harder. I don't question our guys and how hard they play, how important it is to them as individuals and stuff, but it's finding that collective energy of how important every little moment is. And I'm talking about Monday all the way up to kickoff and the preparation and every step and walkthrough, just to be so deliberate in what you do and to really have that urgency and that desperation on how every single game, no matter what it is, primetime, division, the first game of the year, the last game of the year, but to have that true, to be truly desperate to where you're giving it everything you have and you can't think about anything else. That's what it takes to find an edge in this league. And if you don't find an edge like that, that's truly genuine, it's such a fine line on how you win and lose games.
What do you think about that?
The whole first sentence or two was a crock of shit. That's what I think it was. That was what he said so the players don't get mad at him. But He literally said, I don't question the effort my players give, but they're not preparing during the week. They're taking things for granted. They're not giving it their all. They're not desperate enough. They aren't trying hard enough. It's like, okay, yeah, that first part was just you're trying to cover your butt, but then you went in to all the details and you're admitting that they're taking practice for granted, that they're not preparing like they should, that they don't have desperation, they haven't found their edge, meaning they're not trying hard enough. So yeah, they do have an effort problem. They have an arrogance problem.
Who does that fall on? Doesn't that reflect on leadership?
Yes and no. Kyle does not strike me as somebody that tries to correct that. That's to me, Kyle, and he's hinted at it in press conferences over the years. So it's reading between the lines on multiple comments. But he strikes me as somebody that it's on the player to be motivated. They are in the NFL. They are professional. They are getting paid. They should have their own motivation. It's not my job to be saying, hey, get it together. You're not fully dedicated here. And so I don't think he's not the type of coach that addresses those scenarios. What this falls on, you can fault him for not addressing it, but that's not his MO, and I'm okay with that. It falls on the leaders. And that's what I've been getting on all season. The leaders are the ones that are making the mistakes. You can't just say you got to be a vocal leader. You also have to lead by example. You can be a non-vocal leader and lead by example and still be a good leader. The problem is whether you're vocal or not, the leaders are not leading by example. They're making the mistakes, and that's setting the tone for the whole rest of the team. To me, the captains on this team, the veterans who have been around, those are the ones that are admitting it in press conferences that, yeah, they do coast, that they do go, okay, we're up 10, we're good now. And then all of a sudden the team comes back on them.
I want to respond to that in a very honest and truthful way, but my TV is here, so I'm going to sign for the TV. You take over, and I promise I'll be back very, very soon. You can read.
All right, I'll talk some crap about you while you're gone.
Good.
What's up? So yeah, I'll respond to comments. I'm not going to get too much into other topics, but you can put in the comments whether or not you agree with me. To me, I think this team is 100% taking things for granted, and I think it falls mostly on Kittle and Juice and Trent Williams. Those are the three that I've seen this year that are making mistakes weekly. And on top of making those mistakes, they're saying in the press conferences that, yes, we got up by 10. Kittle said that during one game. We got up by double digits. We thought we were good. Yeah, we did relax a little bit, and the team came back on them. I don't remember exactly which week that was, but that happened in a game. You have Juice having holdings. You have Trent Williams having holdings. It is the leaders on this team, the captains, that are failing the team.
So that was a false alarm. It was somebody dropping off a package. My son came to get me prematurely. My TV is not here. I'm very upset about it. Sorry. What were you just saying? You're blaming the leaders?
Yeah, I didn't want to move on and have a whole bunch of different topics that then.
Oh, yeah.
So I just talked more and asked people to post whether or not they agree that it is the captains on this team that are the root of the problems this year. The reason why they have that razor thin margin that he's talking about, they've lost so many games by so little that it's those little mistakes that have come back to bite them.
Part of being a captain and a leader, or more a leader than a captain, part of being a real leader on a team. One, you can't lead from the trainer's room. And two, you have to kick ass on the field. If you stink, you can't go up to other guys and be like, hey, you're not on your stuff.
Yeah.
The leaders of this team, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, have been playing great. They've absolutely been elevating their games to that level. But I don't think either one of those guys is a grab a teammate by the face mask kind of guy, or pull you aside on Thursday and say, dude, you're killing this team. You got to, like, what are you doing? Why are you going out at night? Why you whatever the case may be. I don't know
who is on this team.
Yeah. I don't know.
Brock's the only one that strikes me as that guy.
Jimmy Ward probably was.
Yeah.
I could picture Jimmy Ward doing it. I don't know. Is Mooney Ward that guy? Maybe, but he's dealing with, a horrible tragedy right now. He's got his own thing.
He's also he didn't play well at all to start this year, so it's hard for him to strike that chord. But Kittle strikes me as the guy, he wants to be liked by everybody. So he's not going to undress somebody and go
He
after
could
them.
do it. Yep.
He could, but I think he is the guy that he has to be loved by everybody. He has to. That's why he's the class clown. He has to be adored and loved. So he's not going to come after you in that manner. He might give you a pep talk, but he's not going to give you the pick it up, you stupid, mofo. He's not that guy. Juice does not strike me as that guy. Juice is the guy who'll point out like tactical things. Hey, you messed up here. You could do this. You know what I mean?
He's a fullback. Like that's like
Right.
a one notch above a kicker doing it. Really.
Debo, I don't know. Debo, I could see, but Debo also, to me, he has a lot of lone wolf type attitude. He's very much, I'm going to be ready and I'm going to talk my crap, but it's me. He's very much, I don't know how to put it. He's a lone wolf. He's not somebody that goes and rallies the troops. He rallies himself.
Nathan Gothan says Lenore is that guy.
Could be, but it's hard for him to also do that because on defense, like you said, he's got Ward, who I'm sure was a huge mentor to him when he came into the league. You have Fred Warner, you have Nick Bosa. It's hard to be a vocal leader like that on defense, and you're certainly not going to then come after the offense. You need one guy like that on both sides of the ball who's been around, who's a veteran, who when they say something, it has weight.
And I think that I don't know if he has enough pelts on the wall, so to speak. Like he's playing great this year, but it's not like he's got 3 Pro Bowls under his belt, like, so that's a factor too. Like Kittle obviously could, Trent Williams could, and maybe
he doesn't strike me as that guy either.
I don't know. I think he could be. Brock, if Brock were paid, I think that Brock could do it.
Brock is that guy. Brock does it. If you mess up in practice, Brock's going after you.
He yelled at Ronnie Bell during the game when he almost threw that pick. You could hear him yell, "Ronnie!" Damn it, Ronnie Bell. By the way, did you read the super chat yet? I want to make sure we get this in.
I did not.
Keith Murphy, the Unbeaten, says Brock has done enough to earn a contract. The question is how much. Yes, that is the question. But it's, again, like we talked about market rate and stuff. Like he's going to want, it's not, well, we'll give you a new contract, but how much is it? It's no. If you're giving me a contract, this is where the floor of that contract is. So it's not really how much, because we know the market rate.
Yeah. It's a matter to me of how you're going to be able to structure it. He's going to get paid. Can you structure it in a way where maybe you pay him, he gets a big signing bonus, but in terms of cap hits, it's $30-40 million the first 2 years, and then you have the ability to get out before it balloons to like a $70 million cap hit. Right. You know what I mean? Can they get that structuring? If he goes on a run here the last, what you said, I got 7 games stuck in my head, but it's
9 games.
9 games. Thank you. If he goes on a run these last 9 games and ends up having a really good season, and the team, let's say they win 7 out of 9, so they're at 11 wins, he's going to be able to name his price. You're not going to have much negotiating ability, regardless of what happens in the playoffs.
It's true. The Sentinels football channel says Brock off the field equals Clark Kent. Brock on the field equals Superman.
Brock on the field is more of a Batman. He is going to keep you in line. Superman is the George Kittle. He doesn't want anybody to be mad at him.
Yeah, I guess. Anyway, that's going to do it for this edition of the show.
Which show?
The Gold Standard.
Okay. Yeah. Next time, have your deliveries on a less important day, like, the Fridays.
Oh, wow. Okay. Take that, Michelle. Please rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network wherever you get your audio pods. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Here's a question, Levin. Are we doing an instant reaction show on Sunday with the 49ers off?
What are we reacting to?
Just the week of football in general. We've been debating opening up the channel to more general NFL talk.
Well, I'm on nights, so.
Well, there you go. There's my answer.
I would be open to it, but yeah, not good timing.
Yeah, Levin and I are debating maybe starting an NFL show. We're in discussions about that. Chat, what do you think about that? You want to listen to me and Levin talk about teams other than the 49ers, or do you just not care?
Yeah, and if you're not watching this live, but you're watching it after, leave a comment and let us know if you'd be interested in us. Just we've kicked around ideas, nothing's in stone, but thinking of just like having a show where we talk about each game in the NFL and what it means and what we saw and all that, and then maybe previewing games, or we might go a different route. So give us ideas. Tell us what you would want to see out of us, or if you even care to see us any more than you already do.
There you go. Or maybe just more me and less Levin. That's a thing that could happen too, if you're so inclined. Either way, let us know. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, everybody. Enjoy your Halloween. Please be safe, and we'll talk to you next week.